listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
This is Express Yourself with
The Professor.
Call in and participate at 326-0271 or 326-0272. Follow us live on Facebook and globalradio99.5fm.com. Express yourself live on Global Radio 99.5 FM.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. This is a great day to be in the Commonwealth Bahamas. This is Thursday. And I listened to the convention last night, some very great speeches from the Democratic National Convention. We had the senior people, very, very senior people. You had Nancy Pelosi, she was there. I think she's 84. And I think Mr. Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, 78. And there were some other people who gave some wonderful speeches last night. I think it would be encouraging for Bahamians to listen to what was said. We don't have to adopt everything that America does, but if they say something that makes sense, we should listen to it and see how best we can inculcate information into our own system. Because the President of the United States has told us, number one, democracy is under attack. They also talked about what happened on January the 6th, 2021, when Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, was in office. And how there was a lot of confusion in Washington. They had to spend about 2 days of there trying to deal with the tallying of the ballots to see who was the real winner of the presidential election. And of course, Donald Trump, even before then, was saying that, they were cheating and they stole the election. He's not been able to prove it. And there's been no charges brought against him in relation to the insurrection where lives were lost. People literally died. People were injured. And that is yet to be resolved in the United States. But what I noticed shortly thereafter, every single person ran for the Constitution of the United States. They didn't want to be identified with this insurrection, this rebellion against the democracy of the United States of America, which is supposed to be the bastion of democracy, but it was threatened. And President Biden said that democracy is under attack in the United States. Is it under attack in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? Do we have parliamentary representation, or do we have something else? We've been trying something for the last 51 years. In fact, when you look at the two last elections, one party got 35 seats, the other got 4 in opposition. That's a total of 39. And when it was the Lyndon's time, when the F&M won in 1992, it was 33 and 16. That was 49 seats in the House of Assembly. I think that's the highest number of seats. You will notice in our Constitution, we don't have a maximum for the number of seats. This fellow decides today or tomorrow he will add another 10 seats. He could do it. It says a minimum of 38. You can't have less than 38, but you could have more than 38. Now it's 39. It used to be 49 under Sir Lyndon. And so there are some things we have to look at very seriously. When you look at the powers of the office of Prime Minister, a lot of people don't understand how powerful that office is. That office is so powerful, it could actually interfere with your very personal affairs. Do you hear what I just tell you, Bahamians? That office could actually interfere with your very personal affairs. Very powerful office. It's in your Constitution. Now, it doesn't mean the man should get into all of your personal affairs. That should not be. But the office is so all-encompassing. It stretches its tentacles into every single facet of Bahamian life. Every single facet of Bahamian life. Your religious life, your personal life, your social life, your community life, your national life. Every single facet of Bahamian life. That office of Prime Minister puts its tentacles right in there. If the man won't get you, he can get you. In fact, you have so many minions. These minions are personalities who will do the bidding of the particular personality in the office. I'm not saying this one is doing that. But when people see that kind of power that they have, if you get the wrong person in that office, we're in trouble, Indians. Have we ever had the wrong person? I think it's 5 prime ministers we've had so far over the last 51 years. That's about one every 10 years. You spread it out. The point is, people need to know and understand the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We've been governing, not understanding the powers of the office of Prime Minister, the powers of the Cabinet. And we ain't sure whether it's the Prime Minister or the Cabinet when it comes to these final decisions. But the Constitution said the Cabinet has what? Overall direction, that's 1. Overall control, that's 2. Of what? The government. But the Prime Minister appoints the Cabinet. He recommends the personalities who will be in the Cabinet. So does he exercise or overextends his power when they sit around the table? We don't know that because they ain't no one to tell you. But all you have to do is look at the behavioral patterns of the ministers who sit with the Prime Minister and look at the actions of the Prime Minister himself. We haven't had any female Prime Minister yet, so it's him. And you will get an understanding as to what you're dealing with. I believe we have a call on the line. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Professor Sidney Walter Thompson. How are you? And God's blessings to one and all. Berenice Johnson, the original.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thompson, we must deal with first the corruption. And it's not the political leaders. I keep telling you that because the BTC.
So who is, hold on, stop right there. Stop right there. I'm not
Yes,
saying
sir.
I'm cutting you now. I'll let you stay on the line. Where's this corruption that people keep complaining about coming from? Because
The
I know.
corruption is within the system that has
Well,
been
the
identified.
system consists of people who run the system.
The system and the cycle. It has been in before the Constitution was enacted.
What do you mean? Wait a minute, hold on. Stop right there.
It was a
Put on
template.
hold, put on hold. What you mean before the Constitution? You always had a Constitution. Come on, man. Don't play around with me when it comes to this Constitution, you know. We had a Constitution from the beginning.
Yes,
You know, we were a colony back then, but
we had a constitution.
yeah, producer, bring the caller up. She got to get the facts straight, man. Berenice,
Yes.
are you there? Continue your conversation. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Now BTC was supposed to be privatized from '84.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
let me say good afternoon to Her Excellency for Life, Dame Margaret Finley. The first thing we must do, and the money is there to get right away, Mr. Thompson. We have
So,
already
Berenice.
investigated this.
Berenice, listen. Can
Yes.
we get this money today?
I said the money was there to get. I told you that they have deactivated the phone system on my phone. I thought
Yeah, you
somebody
said that.
from
No, you said that.
your place would have brought me one phone, to loan me one phone.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I put it over the airway to see how genuine this efforts are over here on this station. However, God will make a way because what they are desperate for, the FNM is desperate for power, and it's not going to happen because we must first clear so that Lincoln name. Okay, that has to happen for the money to be released, and the other prime ministers will be a part of the vindication because it will be a template for all the nation leaders. You see what is going on in the United States of America? Okay, when that has been done, God's willing, see, God ushered in Prime Minister Philip Edward Brave Davis for a time such as now because he can issue land titles up in Cat Island, Rum Keys, and Salvador, and other places. We have that information from the late Gerald Augustus Bartlett. We did that in partnership with the federal government of the United States of America, you raise your block. Bishop Gregory Colley, he has it, he knows. And that's why you see they try to stop me. But God Almighty is a mighty God, and they were not, and I keep saying, keep the British monarchy above the fray of politics, because you all will get the information that each and every human being will have access to their homes, their land, and the property. Okay?
But Berenice, over the last 51 years, we have seen a decline in the lifestyles of the Bahamian people. What do you say to that?
It's because of the external forces. And you see the AI, where they accuse, you remember when in the Commission of Inquiry, when my mother wealthy son, what is his name, Bishop Jackson Gomez said that
Yes.
we are a nation of corruption, and he said that monies were on the late Sir Lyndon Pinling bank account, and that was the artificial intelligence, the electronic currency transfers that they put on people's accounts, and then they copy it off. We knew that from 1980.
But didn't Sir Lyndon say he...
And when in 1984, when all this drama happened, when the late A.D. Hanna walked out from Mr. Pinley, we have all of that history that will be shared with our people to cause them to have inspirational, motivational comfort. This money can be released like next week, okay? Leave the prime ministers alone, because the same women united women, and all those women who are who call women, who said men are inferior to women, they are demons. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, God will deal with them. They said man is prototype. You cannot deal with these people. The National Insurance Board, the file I placed there, we will get that money. We have monies owing to us from the United States of America for that investigation. Our Royal Bahamas Police Force people, some of them has died and passed on, and it will go to their estates. Whoever have died and passed on the 85 years, it will go to her estate. Okay? I don't talk foolishness, Mr. Sidney MacArthur or Walter Thompson. When you hear me call Mr. Ingram name, they try to incriminate me too, because they knew that we did the investigations, and it's par excellence. Okay?
So what role does the former prime ministers have to play in this?
All of them has to play, because this started to escalate, intensify from 1980. And they, as long as God allowed the breath of life in their nostrils, they are a part of it. They don't need to be leading. And whether they thief the election, say from the PLC or not, the FNM is desperate. The investigators that they said they didn't want investigators, Mr. Dwayne Sands need to go and pray. He said, when it's time, so you could pray to Jesus, but you still got to come to him. I spoke with this man. I told him, you know who said that? Mr. Ingram.
Berenice, you know who said that, what you just said? That comment you just made.
Dr. Dwayne Sands.
No. Oh, it was Dwayne Sands? Okay.
Dr. Dwayne Sands, I told you I spoke with this man.
Okay.
I spoke with all of them over in the FNM. They are desperate for power.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
They deactivated my incoming and outgoing call, the call application 4267762, and they are imitating me on the social media platform. I speak on radio only. I'm using somebody's cell phone to clarify it, because I made a complaint to BTC over and repeatedly from July 16th, 10 o'clock, after I spoke with Mrs. Urban Boswick's daughter, Sonia Cox Hamilton.
Yes.
The phone had no service, and it did like that when Mr. Ingram went in the hospital. It came up with no service, and then when I got home, it was reactivated. So I know it's K. Darren Turnquist and those. I will call their name in the name of Jesus Christ, because that's who over there. He never been to BDC before. We know what is anticipated,
so
and we will set him out. And when God releases his blessing, it rains on the just and the unjust. But don't force no desperation of power. The older people must hand this nation over properly, and godly governance is the order of the day. It's about Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Those who so don't want to believe, well, too bad, too sad for them. Okay. They can go with the black Israelites, the black star of David, the black whoever, tell
Okay.
Bishop Gregory Colley, they know, and Martin Albury, because you were there.
All right. Thank you
Okay.
for your contribution. Thank you very much. Brother Cartwright, I don't know what to make of it, but I'll have some comments on it, but I'll let you speak to it because do you know who said that?
Those words she talked about was the words came from Mr. Christie.
Perry Christie, former Prime Minister. Yeah. He said it was the FNM.
Yeah. I always tell people that if you have a particular party that you support, that is your given choice under the Constitution. Let me say this now. Good afternoon to everybody, Professor, the producer, and
Yes,
the
sir.
radio audience
Thank
at
you.
large. The thing is, what I try to do when people ask me questions or try to corner me, I said, under the Constitution, I have a right to choose which party or organization I want to support. I also have the right to choose to criticize them if I choose to. So the powers the Constitution gives me when it comes to as an elector, that is my right. But I will not exploit my right on others because that's where you cause conflict. And so I always try to tell people that I stay in the middle, and that's where I heard you earlier were talking about the U.S.
Yes.
Their convention, and I spoke with my cousin last night, who was an American,
Yeah.
and he said, "Cuz, for the first time, I saw the ANC convention as a concert." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Like a hip hop concert." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because no one talk about issues." He said, we were gung ho when Mr. Obama got elected a couple of years ago. And we were very excited because we said, hey, we've got a brother in the White House. He's going to do some things for the Black community. And we can feel some power and some entitlement. 8 years went by. We saw nothing.
Okay.
And he said, today, we was like, okay, we've got a sister in the White House. She might be the boss, but she's the deputy. We can see some things happening in our communities. They're there now. We still haven't seen. All we've seen is that the level of things that we expected for our communities, because he said every other grouping in America, there's been something there for them.
Okay.
He said, but for us, he says, for us Black Americans, he said, one of the things that I'm upset with, and he said, because you remember that act, what they call the Civil Rights Act? I said, yeah. He said, that was not designed for nobody else but Blacks. He said, but now everybody in America now challenge whatever they see using that same Civil Rights Act, and they get results. He said, why do you think in the Black communities, especially places like where they have in the convention,
Chicago,
places like New York,
yes,
places like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and other suburbs, the crime is high in those communities? He said, you know why? I said, no, I don't live there. He said, the problem is that just like most other countries, those who are less fortunate, they get the crumbs. And so when it comes to governance, they get nothing. So when their community starts to falter or fall apart, the powers to be say, don't worry about them, man. Because they're looking for nothing. They can be comfortable. And then they go out and embrace others and give them the opportunities. He said, what is there for them to do? Nothing. And he said, we've got to now in America start to look and listen for policies. He said, at least you guys might get fellas over there telling you what they plan to do. But then you at least could sit down and watch and see if they're going to follow those political rhetoric or what they will do with their policies. I said, yes. I said, one question I want to ask you. And he said, go ahead. I said, I always hear you all talk about democracy. I said, you don't have democracy. He said, oh, yeah. I said, no, you don't. I said, you have a republic system. There's no democracy in the republic system. The republic style of governance copies democracy. Because if you had democracy, everyone would be treated equally. You would have a say in what your government do. Your guidelines should be there for you to now have an input. I said, what I've seen here, and I said, you know why I said that? He said, why? I said, because I've seen it here in the Bahamas, where we've been copying your style of governance.
Yes.
So I know that can't be democracy. And we have, like in your country, yes, you have the Caucasians and more a majority. But in this country, this is like most African countries, this is a black nation. And we've seen whereby that the governance hurts those who are less unfortunate. We've seen where those who come into the country get all the benefits.
Yeah.
We've seen where those who have no lineage to this country, whether they live behind the gates or have permanent residence, we've seen where they have basically given more of a benefit of a doubt.
Yes.
And so when you look at the way we talk about democracy, we've seen it, we understand it. That is why now, I think, and I said, this is why I think now our political system and our politicians are more afraid of people now standing up and speaking their minds. Because that's in democracy in your country, you can't say certain things. No matter how much you all talk about freedom of liberty and all those stuff, I said, we've seen it. I said, if you had true democracy, you would not have a housing problem. If you had true democracy, you would not have a homelessness problem. I said, all of the things that you brag about, I said, I'm starting to see it creeping into our culture.
Yes, that's correct.
I said, when I knew myself as a young boy, and I said, you know this, cuz, and I said, when we were young, you came to the Bahamas, there was no such thing as you knowing somebody homeless.
No.
There was no such thing as people couldn't find work. I said, this is a culture
something to eat.
This was a culture that we basically was embedded in our fabric, from through the Constitution, through everything with us.
Yes.
Now we are basically, people tell you they don't recognize what is a Bahamian. We've heard it over and over. People
yes, that's correct.
What's Bahamian?
Yeah.
And I always said that when we move away from the guidelines what made us, that's when we found ourselves in problems.
Yes.
Because when you look at it, I always tell people this. The Dominicans come in our waters to fish for one reason. Why? They've outfished their waters. We've had people from all over come fish in our waters. Why? Because they have basically abused their resources. We've basically, from 1492 to now, God blessed us with abundance of water and food.
Plenty of fish, yeah.
But we have not had leadership that said, you know what?
Let's harness it.
That's how we can harness this and
Yes.
come and make some real serious money for our people.
Yes.
Well, if you look back in time, if you look before self-governance, the people of back then who were the ones who were considered persons of character were the fishermen and the farmers in these islands.
Yeah.
They would not look at, the lawyers would not even look at them because there was only a few of them.
Yeah.
And now when you look at it, it's flipped over.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lawyers who now has this enormous so-called power, and those who are the regular persons who basically build this country, they're the ones who are now marginalized. Yeah. No one pays attention to them. No one listens to them. And so what I've learned is that the Constitution, if you don't read it, you will always believe what the politician or the parliamentarian telling you is the truth. Yeah. We've seen now in the last year and a half, they don't know the Constitution.
No, they don't.
Because we've seen there members of parliament and former members of parliament, questions were put to them based on the Constitution, and the reply they give tells you that they didn't know. And so people say, well, yes, like I heard the caller was saying, with corruption, the system and this. And I always tell people this. If you put a piece of paper with 10 things you want to do on a desk, and you don't pick up, no one picks up that paper, it's just a paper sitting on the desk.
Sitting on the desk. Yeah.
So it takes human beings to mess up with the system.
That's right.
Because if they follow the guidelines that was laid out in front of them, we shouldn't have no problems. We should have a problem with heavy crime.
That's right.
We wouldn't have no problem with people being hungry. We wouldn't have no problem with people being homeless. And so when you look and you talked about that earlier, but you talked about the power of the prime minister.
Yes.
The prime minister is a democratic dictator. That's what he is.
Interesting.
He has ultimate power. If you look at a dictator, what does he have? Ultimate power. The prime minister hires and fires who serve in his cabinet, and you serve at his pleasure.
At his pleasure, yeah.
So that tells me you're a dictator.
So when the Constitution says, and this is what I'm trying to get people to understand, the Prime Minister recommends to the Governor General who he wants in his cabinet. All right? Now, when you read the Constitution says the cabinet, Prime Minister, these are the fellows who are ministers. Now, you got some other fellows who say they're state ministers. They say they're part of the cabinet. That's not constitutional at all.
No.
So that could go out the window. The cabinet has what? Overall direction. See, you got to know the words in the Constitution. Overall direction, overall control of the government. That's in your Constitution. Now, when they have their meetings, we ain't sure whether it's the Prime Minister who may usurp his authority over the cabinet, because the cabinet consists of all of them put together, or whether these ministers have their say in these meetings. We don't know that, but they talk about collective responsibility. But the Constitution says the cabinet has it. Now, here's another thing we need to understand. When a minister is appointed, because people don't seem to understand this, I hear they say the Minister for Policy. When a minister is appointed and sent to a ministry, that minister has what? Overall direction, overall control of the ministry. Everything ends and stops with him or her. But I hear them saying some other things. Say the permanent secretary is supposed to run the ministry. Or the minister you're just a policy maker. You just make a little policy. Policy is not law. Because you could have a policy this morning, this afternoon you have no policy. You got something different. The Constitution says one thing, but what is being practiced is totally something different. The permanent secretary, according to our Constitution, I think it's Article 88, is a supervisor. And in a ministry, you could have any number of what you call directors. But the permanent secretary, that's another position they got, which is a constitutional position.
Right, yes.
But the permanent secretary is nothing more than a supervisor. Now, I don't know where they get all this glorified status from when it comes to the permanent secretary. But I know it is not constitutional. The ministers are not carrying out their responsibilities. Because I heard one union leader say, that ain't the responsibility of the minister. The minister say, leave it to the technocrats. I don't see that. Hold on, Brother Carver. I can let you speak. I don't see it in the Constitution. The Constitution says the minister has what? Overall direction,
Yes.
1, overall control, 2, 3 of the ministry. That comes directly from the cabinet.
Yes.
So how the hell you going to tell me now someone else is in charge of the ministry? You got to be talking foolishness and nonsense. So someone, well, let's say the whole government has gone wrong.
Wrong, that's correct.
Completely wrong. That's why we all mixed up.
Derelict of duty.
Anyhow, I got a call on the line.
Yeah.
Call you live on here. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon. How you doing, Professor Thompson?
Yes, sir. How are you?
And your guest, and this is a question to your guest, and all of us. Sir, don't you know its connection? Don't you know the Bahamas owned by America and America owned by the British? So it got their names, but we owned by America and America owned by the British. So everything.
Where's the evidence of that caller?
Yes, sir.
Hold on, Brother Cartwright. Hold
I
on.
want to ask him right now.
No, I know. I can let you ask him. Where did you get that information from, caller?
Professor, this is Ken Alana from Freeport. You know I'm intelligent.
No, I didn't ask you about that. Stop right there. I didn't ask you anything about
Okay,
that.
well, give me a
I
chance,
asked
Professor.
you, no.
Give me a
Listen to
chance.
me. Listen to me.
You say how I get information.
Stop him. Stop him right there. Hold it.
I think,
Mr. Cartwright,
yes,
go
Professor,
ahead.
what I don't think the caller understands is that one, if we are owned by America, if you look at our style of governance, if you look at the US style of governance, it's totally different.
Totally different.
If
Yeah.
you look at their breakdown of how their politicians operate, it's totally different.
That's correct.
We've been a British colony. We've got our independence. If you look at all of the British colonies outside of the US selected the style of governance that they wanted.
Yes.
We in the Caribbean and other places, we kept what we wanted. We basically crafted along with the British. You know, one of the things that I always tell people, if you have a copy of the Independence Order, which is the Constitution of the Bahamas, the one thing you would notice, it was not printed in the Bahamas. It was printed in London. Our parliamentarians who was together with the Independence Committee, when they went, they took a template and they said, this is what we want. I always ask people this. If the Bahamas Constitution is the same as everybody else, then does everybody else have those famous words in the preamble?
Yes.
No.
They don't have it.
They don't have it. So you create what you want with the guidelines.
Yes.
And so our Constitution, yes, it is unique to us. It might be similar to others, but it's unique to us.
Yes, it is.
Because the way we do things.
Yes.
When you look at how we govern, and one of the things that Bahamians tend to overlook, yes, the prime minister has the power to hire and to fire, but collectively, if the cabinet, which the prime minister is a part of, if the rest of those members decide, listen, we don't want you to be the leader of this cabinet, they can move him by taking a vote.
Yes.
And the parliamentarians has no say because this comes from the cabinet within.
Okay.
And so people don't realize that. So when you see the prime minister elects, appoints his cabinet, those group of men and women, if they have cojones and they see where their leader of this country is going the wrong way, they can get together and say, you know what, let's take a vote. And once that vote is a majority in that cabinet, he has to step down, or he can go and call an election, which we see happen in around most countries where we have this type of constitution. Yeah. So the cabinet duty is not to the prime minister.
That's right.
Their duty is to the citizenry
of the country.
Of the country.
That's correct.
And so their job is to keep the prime minister in check and make sure that the policies that he presents to them are not only constitutionally sound,
right,
but it benefits
the people.
The people.
Okay, stop right there. Now, the point is that happening today?
No.
Okay. So I am saying that when the Constitution says the cabinet has something, you're wondering whether a particular personality is a domineering factor in that cabinet and has this overall influence instead of the cabinet. But the Constitution says the cabinet has something. It didn't say the prime minister.
Oh.
You see? But now we're getting from them, they're saying collective responsibility. Then you had a minister who disagreed with a cabinet decision and still sitting in the cabinet, you know.
Yes.
And the prime minister has not done the right thing. So what I'm saying is you got to ask yourself, well, what's going on here? And this was done publicly.
Yes.
That's how defiant some people are. You can't touch me, so I can say it anyhow. That's how we have been behaving. So we got some problems. We're going to continue this topic when we I can let you speak because we
come
got
from the break because I can hear the jingle.
I can hear the jingle in the back. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson. I'm glad to have Brother Cartwright. He comes every Thursday, so you ain't got to worry about him. We'll be back after the break.
Bay Street.
I'm pleased, I really dig your company.
It's your chance to join the discussion of today's issue. Yeah, let your voice be heard. Speak your mind and express yourself. Call in and participate at 326-0271 or 326-0272. WhatsApp us your concerns on 809-2310. Follow us live on Facebook and globalradio99.5fm.com. Express yourself.
This is Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. This is a great country to be in. What I don't understand is why is it taking so long? And you had a particular caller called in, say it's not the fault of the prime ministers, those who had the power in their hand. The office of prime minister is a very powerful office. I'm wondering when the masses are going to get any benefit. I don't think they want anything to go to no estate. They want to enjoy it today. Why is it taking so long? 51 years it has been since we were an independent nation. You know how many people died in that 51 year span? Who had high hopes for this country and they didn't see it materialize. You know they expected the government of the Bahamas to assist them and help them. What is the duty of the government of the Bahamas? And someone keeps talking about former leaders. They had their day. They had their time. You have one who's there now, and a particular personality said this one is, God's timing and all of that. Maybe that's true too. But the point is, what is he doing now? He has the office. He is in the office. But the people are still poor. They're still scrapping for a piece of bread. Okay? The cost of living is extremely high. Electricity bills are going up. And people are confronted with all kinds of problems. I don't think some people really look and see the stress that is put on the average Bahamian. I see a lot of stress right in my own community among the average Bahamians. When are they going to get relief? 51 years has already passed. We got another 51, and then it will go to their state again. Come on, man. We can't keep going like this, Brother Cartwright.
Yes,
Help me on this.
Professor, you said something that is very interesting. I remember with my job working based in elevators, and we used to go up in the Fort Fincastle area to fix and service the elevator in the water
tower. Yeah.
And I remember those days, used to see the vendors, most of them from out of the community, have their little businesses around that water tower and the fort.
That's correct.
And I remember used to see women selling Ponciana seeds jewelry.
I remember that, yeah.
You would see men with the little music shaking the Ponciana shakers.
That's correct, yeah.
And so that was a time when you saw where Bahamians were innovative, and they were encouraged to be innovative.
Right.
What have happened to us over the gradual period of time is that, yes, we were modernizing the Bahamas, but we were basically modernizing the country, but we were basically downsizing the culture that made us.
That made us, yes. Okay.
And so you saw whereby that they said, okay, Mr. Johnson owns property in Fort Fincastle. Now, when Mr. Johnson wanted to expand, to do some other things in the community, he did not get the assistance from those in the powers to be.
That's correct.
Because there's if we allow Mr. Johnson to basically go ahead with his program, then we're going to have everybody in this community might want to do mine. It didn't matter to them if the person was going to be successful or not, but they feared that they would not have me to look up to.
Okay.
So they used that power to not benefit the community, but to hold back the community.
Yes.
And by doing that, you not only hold back a community, you hold back the country, because all of these constituencies is made up of many little smaller municipalities.
Yes, that's correct.
And each one of those municipalities has a different culture, identification. Mine, it might have all holds the Bahamian culture, but there are things that you would see the people who lives in Mason might want, like we see today.
That's
Majority of the young men in Mason are involved with Junkanoo.
Junkanoo, yes. That's
Now you have fellas up on the Fort Hill who also might be involved with the group down in Mason.
yes.
But you know, predominantly, if you said Mason additions, first thing they say, home of the Saxons. They don't say nothing else.
Yeah, that's correct.
Home of the Saxons. Now, if you say the Fort Hill, oh yeah, those people on the Fort Hill, man, they made it. And so the people down in Mason look up at the Fort Hill people and say, man, yeah, they made it. But not realizing, no, they basically the same people.
Same people, that's correct.
But their ambition and calling is different.
Yes.
So those at Mason settled down and said, okay, this is what we can be. We can stick with this. Be comfortable with this. So there's no one to nudge and say, hey, you could be just like them on the Fort Hill.
That's
Or you could take somebody out of the Grove and say, you could be just as successful as somebody
That's
in
someone I
Carmichael.
did. That's correct.
And so you've never had the politicians. Now, you had one or two of them tried some things. Like I know with the late Edmund Moxie,
I remember.
in the Coconut Grove community, we used to have a festival around in August called Jombe Festival.
Yeah.
Then we saw whereby Kwaku Street later on in time.
I remember
they
that,
had
Kwaku Street,
They
yeah,
had the
festival.
Joe Billy.
Yeah, Joe Billy Festival.
And so what has happened is
all
now,
that is disappeared
yeah,
off the calendar. now.
most of these modern day parliamentarians aren't bringing anything to unite these communities.
No.
They're not doing anything to build these communities. Because yes, for instance, just about in every constituency, you have a public school. You tell me now whether it's a primary school, whether it's a junior school, whether it's a high school, that those people in those communities whose children are attending those public schools,
Yeah.
if you made some form of way of making them be responsible, let's say just to maintain, you would see a difference in the way people look at the system, the way they look at their community.
Yeah.
So if Mr. Joe Brown has a lawnmower or a truck, and he could go around this whole community and say, you know what? I will cut your yard, cut your grass, X, Y, Z, you pay me X amount. And you work and you negotiate a nice price. He now basically, in that whole community, has a job that pays him on whether weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, sustainably business. It's the same thing we see with these convenience stores in our communities,
Yes.
where we saw family members. We see in other businesses in these communities. For instance, we have one of the few, or probably one of the oldest, last remaining family-run business, Mortimer's Candy Kitchen.
Yeah, that's true.
They're basically 3, 4, almost 4 or 5 generations
Mm-hmm.
running that business. And so when you look at this, this is what we've always had going for us. But what we've seen now is that we've seen whereby that the communities itself is now being take over with new people with different cultures.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so those cultures now realize, hey, these people don't appreciate what they have, so I might as well take over. I might as well replace them. And I noticed this the other day in my community, because in my community, we have a lot of these bars now, which used to be run by Bahamians, now run by the Chinese. And I told a friend of mine, I said, you look, it's funny. I remember the days when they first started, you could walk into that bar and purchase what you want and walk out. I said, to show you that they have no love for their customers, they now serve you from a window. And I said, what makes it sad, you look outside of those bars, if you ride around these Bahama Islands, mainly in New Providence, you see Bahamians sitting down, hanging out outside those retail bars. And people tend to say, and I said, you can't blame the Chinese. You have to blame us. Because if we did not patronize those businesses, they would not come in these communities.
That's correct.
If we don't patronize any form of business that is non-Bahamian, they would not exist. We've got to realize that us Bahamians, the Constitution tells you we the inheritors.
That's right. And successors.
And so
this family.
So this means that whatever happens in this country, it's us who have to decide this.
That's right.
And so when I heard your guest yesterday, which I was listening to, and said that he helped process some Haitians to come Bahamian to get straight, I said, okay, in Bahamian terminology, you get these people documents, which they ain't entitled to have.
That's right.
Do you know what extent and damage you have done? And you questioning the Bahamians, said, what jobs? All jobs in this country belongs to Bahamians. The only jobs don't belong to Bahamians if there's no Bahamian qualified to fill that role. Yeah. Then you could say outsource that. But no job you can tell me don't belong to no Bahamian. I think you basically, I was shocked because I was like, man, I know this guy. Honestly, he can't be serious. I said, I know I hearing this wrong. And I had to wait. And later on that night, I replayed it. And then this morning, I got up and I replayed it and said, man, this man is supposed to be an ambassador. And everything coming out of his mouth is against the Constitution of the Bahamas. And he was an ambassador for the Bahamas.
Yes.
And I was like, I cannot go to the Haitian embassy and they can make me a citizen or get me straight.
That cannot happen.
It can't happen. They've got a constitution Bible. So how is it that we are basically breaking our own constitution, facilitating those who have no entitlement?
That's right.
Because it's clear in the Constitution, and it says to you, it breaks it down to what qualifications that entitles you. Exactly. And if you don't meet those qualifications,
you don't qualify.
You don't qualify.
That's correct.
We go back and we look at Article 54, which speaks to all of the articles in the country, in this Constitution, it says, and it numbers them. If you want to break any changes in any of these numbered articles in the Constitution, you must have a referendum.
Yes.
And that referendum must include the electors, not the parliamentarians, and not only the senators, and then you send it to the Governor General.
To sign.
No, you have to make sure the Governor General must have a certificate from the Parliament Register stating that the election was held and the people voted.
That's correct.
And the majority voted for whatever, then he signs off. He just don't sign off because you sent him something.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this setting in the Bahamas where none of our electors who have been elected understand this Constitution.
Yes, that is true. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Professor, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
And your guest?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, man, the professor, the gentleman on the side of you,
yes,
I endorse him to run this country. That's real talk.
Okay.
Because remember, I came home from school. Now I'm back in Atlanta right now, right? I catch your show later on this time side, and that's that man who was sitting on in your seat yesterday. He boiled my blood over 4 times over, and that's where our problem lies. Because guess what? He exposed himself. And I feel somebody should have been right there to, when he come out, arrest him. If they listen to him real good.
Yes.
You understand? Professor, I was a little kind of shocked. You ain't push back. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was kind of a little shocked. You ain't push back. And that's real talk. Because he boiled my... You know what the thing is, let me tell you why I could agree with, but I'm sorry. So what's your name? Sorry about that.
My name is Cartwright, Richard Cartwright.
Let me tell you why I love this man. Because this man 100% Bahamianized. The few times I catch him, I never see him speak against poor people, speak against his own. Everything he's saying, listen to his vibe. You know what I mean? And this is what I need, like, in the country to really protect us. I listen to that man talk about Haitian people. He give this story about where he's saying they is work because they in love with work. Let me give you a little story over here in Atlanta. Since and I hope he's listening. There's a group of Bahamians over here. You do think Bahamians can't stick together? We in another man Haitian, so we have to look out for each other, right?
Yes.
You understand what I said? We have to look out for each other. So if somebody over here don't have, we do what we got to do to keep the same type of movement because we know we ain't home. But everybody would come on the show. I watch them put down the behemoths to uplift another nation. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know who he is. And I watch him sit down right here talking about a couple of people. This was wrong because Keith Bell was in the same position, so.
Yeah. But
you understand? Keith Bell was in the same situation in church saying this man is his friend, and the only thing he say before he died was if he could get his family straight.
But caller, you know what hurt me in all of that, listening to that, watching the show yesterday? This ain't someone I don't know. This is someone I know. And I was shocked. I was hurt because it's like, how can you put down your people? How can you basically save us? Because the ambassador, people don't realize when an ambassador of your country goes to work in another country, he represents the Bahamian people.
That's real talk.
And so when I heard the things that he said, I was like, my goodness, that's my boy. And that's what he's saying about us. I said, you mean to tell me that he don't even know his own role as his job? That's why I keep trying to explain to people. I said, listen, we need to move away from putting ambassadors in countries just because he's a former politician or he's your boy. If he ain't bringing nothing to the table, my brother, that's cool. I ain't got no problem with you. And see, what we got to understand, and for this Bahamas to grow, after the election is held, we only got one government, And I don't think Bahamians understand. Oh, the PLP, FNM, this and one. I said, no. We only got one government which has a contract with the Bahamian people for 5 years. And so when we send out persons to represent us, we got to send the best set of people to represent us who could explain our laws, who could explain our Constitution, so that whenever they encompass someone who's not a Bahamian and wants to do business in the Bahamas, you could sit down and explain it to him without even blinking an eye.
But I can listen to you all day. And let me show you another thing too, man, what break my heart, right? You have people would come into this country. It was said, right? People would come into the country, coming in with their passport and they work permit. This little work permit scam would go on because I call it a call, right? You have the people were cutting your grass. So let's just say, and I'm asking you because I know both of y'all, they are knowledgeable, way knowledgeable than me, because whatever you spit and I trying to soak up. So I'm asking, and there's something in the Constitution that certain jobs are just preserved for Bahamian. I'm asking, like cutting grass.
Yeah, but bro, here's the thing. And this is something I think a lot of people miss when I say this. All jobs in this country of ours, the Bahamas, is Bahamian jobs. The only jobs that you can say aren't Bahamian jobs are where they call for special skill. And we don't have it amongst us in the country. But all jobs, whether it's cutting grass, whether it's cutting hair, whether it's driving taxi, whether it's grocery packing, whether it's open a business, all jobs are Bahamian jobs.
Now, I say that to you to say this, because the forefathers, I just awaken to them because I feel like they fail us. You feel what I saying?
Yeah.
Now, I think they were sitting back and saying to the small man, because the other day, my boy, when he's getting his grass cut, before I came back to Atlanta, right? He's getting his grass cut. He's starting to wake up too. So he asks the guy if he's straight. The guy show him a work permit, not a work permit to assist a carpenter. I didn't get that. But here's the thing. He come to cut my boy grass. What he boy said, one bunch of Haitian, and holding a work permit when he ain't got nothing to do with cutting grass. So I look back, right? I look back and I say, okay, would the immigration officers there? Because now that I over here, let me give you some. I don't know if you ever hear about a place, the homeland and the states we call ISIS.
Yeah.
Okay, when you get your school, you have to get once the summer over, and you have to get your school
in the States, redo and whatnot. You have to pay the cost, pay the tithes, and then ISIS asks you your location.
Yeah.
Then they check your location before you even get to your location and talk to the person who you say, okay, I can be here for X amount of time. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Before you enter into your location.
Yeah.
We have nothing like that going on in the Bahamas. You understand? And I bounce back to the same feeling you get when I hear this man talking. And Professor, this ain't no disrespect. I watch you good because I say, okay, the professor can push back, and I have to say what I say to you, Professor, with no disrespect, because I know I use my elder. But I listen to this man spew, and all you were saying is okay. But then when you in that studio by yourself, you get mad because you be like, Behemoths, we got this, we got that. We listening to, you know. But then also we watching, because when certain people with a different agenda ask me one thing, that man say what was positive against Bohemian yesterday. One thing other than he was friends with the man who get assassinated. What has nothing to do with me.
No.
When you look at this guy, he can say he don't know. When you ask him something, that is beyond my pay grade. But you using an ambassador to the Bahamas and you trying to say you get people them straight and stuff like this. You don't see what's going on in the Bahamas, where every island in the Bahamas, I dare anybody to go to every island in the Bahamas. We have a group of people, let me be real, Haitians, that is there, that I talking about, they doing the growth in them nations. And our immigration officers, there's the biggest failure in this country. Because they only have one job. If I lie, let me know. They're supposed to protect our borders, right?
Yeah.
In and out.
But caller, I'm gonna say this to you. I was home in Long Island about a couple months back, and I took the boat down to go home. And what blew me away was that there was like a group of 5 Asians, and talking with them, they said, "Where y'all going?" They said, "Oh, we going to." So they was like trying to dodge. So when I got off the boat, I saw my cousin who was the priest in charge of the church. So he picked them up and he took them down to the church. They did must be some work for the church. And that's Sunday. So 2 days later, I went to visit my cousin who lived near the airport. And do you realize that I met those people sitting down, waiting for Bahamas Air to come? And I cracked my cousin. I said, man, I see them. I thought they come here to, I cracked him. I said, boss, man, you here? I thought you come to visit. He said, no, daddy, I come work and I work finished. So I said, you ain't find out work? He said, no, daddy, I finish work. They tell me plane, and plane come, I go back Nassau. And I was like, if these people here at Long Island take pride in basically protecting their rock, what does it mean about our governors? Because I've known over the years, we've had people saying they spot them out to sea. And they would bring them into land, feed them, and put them on by the airport, and they sit there, guard them, and like they policemen, and put them on the plane for when Bahamas Air land. They tell them, look, when you leave, you carry them with you all to Nassau. We then call the people; they can be waiting for them in Nassau. You gotta have that passion about the country, and if you don't have that passion, you're gonna lose it. And that's what I think all of our parliamentarians. See, that's why I just tell people: the parliamentarian gotta now look upon himself and say, listen, I represent this country. Let me see what I can do to make life better. See, if he only worry about the party, ain't nothing changed. And this is why I just try to tell people, every political machinery can tell me what they would do once they get in.
Okay. Caller,
let me say one thing before I go. Let
make
me
it very
say
brief
one
now.
thing
We have
if I
another
can get
caller
it
on the
before.
line. Go ahead,
Before
quickly.
you
Go ahead,
go.
caller.
Let me see.
Caller, go ahead.
Okay.
Quickly.
You and Professor, your eyes open. You could imagine talking to somebody who deaf and blind to something.
Yeah.
That's why I believe the majority of the Bahamian to believe this case that, okay, once a child born in the Bahamas, they automatically assist. And that's why I believe there's no push. Because if you look at the little crumbles you all throw to us, you all ain't even deep. Because to me now, the scab of my eye, because right now I call an accent, but I call the immigration officer and threaten them. You see what I said?
Yes,
That's
sir.
just because listening to you all, what you all say. That's why I say you can't really blame the masses because we was lied to so long by people who's supposed to say they love us. You understand? And you all only throw the crumbles.
Yes.
And Professor, I still got love for you, man. But yesterday, I like you get knocked out by somebody who was a treasonous. But I still got love for you, man. I can leave you on that.
Thank you for your contribution. Well, these people are something else. This is what happens when you're in this kind of seat. Call you live on air. Go ahead, please. They're gone. Okay, all right.
See, I think what I listening to that gentleman, and I know him.
Yeah,
Good friend.
he's from Grand Bahama.
Yeah, and
But he says in Atlanta. Did he say Atlanta?
yeah,
Or
the young fella who was on the caller, he's from here, but he lived working in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And the things I always tell people, and I would say this after I hear the jingle, and then I'll look at some of the quotes,
Yes,
and we'll
sir.
get back. But I hear the jingle.
All right. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson, Richard Cartwright, my special guest today on the Global Radio Network 99.5. Express yourself. We want you to call in the numbers 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. We'll be back after the break.
Express Yourself Live will return right It's your chance to join the discussion of today's issue. Here, let your voice be heard. Speak your mind and express yourself here. Call in and participate at 326-0271 or 326-0272. WhatsApp us your concerns on 809-2310. Follow us live on Facebook and globalradio99.5fm.com. Express yourself.
This is Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. Express yourself. Some people are still reacting to the show from yesterday. I didn't know the reaction was so strong. And Bahamians have a right to react if they feel disappointed. And yes, I did not badger the guest at that particular time. I allowed the guest to speak freely. Was he acting on his own, or was he acting under the leadership of the government of the country? Were his actions constitutionally sound? That's what we have to answer. And if he was acting under the orders of the government, then we have to ask whether the actions of the government were constitutionally sound. Because he did say a lot of things that perhaps offended a lot of Bahamians, and I can understand that. But I didn't want to badger the guests. When you bring them on, you want them to speak freely and express themselves. We have a call on the line. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Am I on the line?
You're
Yes.
on, yeah. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, Professor Thompson.
Yes, sir.
So this is what I think this is my first time calling, so I just want to get a few points across.
Yes,
The first one is I don't want to pile on, but I had to agree with one of the previous callers. I was a bit shocked because I've listened to your show a lot. You always go through the Constitution and how there's been so many breaches and
Yes,
law
I
and
have.
order. So I was a
Yes,
little
I have.
surprised you didn't push back on the gentleman you had on the show. I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple of
No,
days ago,
yesterday.
talking about, I think he was a former ambassador or something for the
Yeah, former
Bahamas.
ambassador to Haiti.
So my first
Yes.
thing about that, right? One of the points he was raising is that there was a gentleman, I guess a Haitian gentleman, who was caught at the airport with I think 90,000,
Yes.
and he was saying that his funds were confiscated, right?
Yes.
And then he's saying he went before the court and he had to pay a fine.
I think it was 2,500.
And he was saying like that was ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is he broke the law.
Yes, he
You
violated
see, I mean,
the law.
it doesn't have to be logical. The law says you only can travel with a certain amount. If you travel with more than that, you have to declare it.
You have
He
to
didn't
declare,
do that.
yes.
So
No, he
automatically the funds are confiscated.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with the penalty he's going to pay for breaking the law.
Okay, I accept that. Yes.
But there again, you didn't push back. So I guess you were being very diplomatic with your guest. That's fine. That's your right. Secondly, this immigration problem. I know years ago I traveled to an island off the English coast in English Channel called Guernsey, and I think they're dependents of the UK.
Yes.
Or they're colonies of the UK, but Guernsey and Jersey. And what was interesting in that is that when you went over there and you applied for a work permit, right? You got a job. Before you get a work permit, you had to get a housing permit. So in other words, before they approve your work permit, you had to prove that you have a housing permit. The problem with here in the Bahamas is, and why we have all these shanty towns, we're bringing in people to work, immigrants, with no housing.
Okay.
And we're not, in other words, immigration should have a policy. Okay, you want to bring in someone to work for you, or someone is applying for a work permit, where's your housing permit? What number's the house? Go and inspect the house. Make sure it's sanitary. Make sure it has indoor bathroom facilities. They're not doing that. So what we have is a lot of these people come here and get work permits, especially from unfortunately from Haiti, and they go and live in shanty towns.
Yes.
So you see, we create problems because we don't have proper systems in place. Okay? So that's just a few of the points I want to mention. I'm not going to take any more time. I enjoy your show. I think you're really educating the country about the Constitution. But please don't allow people to come on your show like that gentleman, I think it was yesterday. I know his name. I know him. I don't want to call his name. And spew out that kind of nonsense and without any pushback. Because like the callers say, some of the things are treasonous. If my country send you to a country to represent us, you can't come back here and down your own people. And that's all I have to say. So continue the good work. Enjoy your show. And thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, thank you very much for your call. Do we have another caller, Mr. Producer? Okay. We have another caller. I thought we did. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please. Caller, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
How you doing, Professor?
Yeah, I'm doing quite well.
That's good. That's good. How you doing, Mr. Carteret?
I'm doing well, sir. Hope you're doing well, sir.
That's good, man. The first time I heard you on Professor's show, man, it caught my attention greatly. And I said, there is a real smart Bahamian man.
Yes.
And I think Professor should have you on his show as a co-host every day from Monday to Friday.
Man, you try to corner me down. I got another life, you know. I got another life.
But Professor, one thing I was very disappointed in. I don't miss your show, and you have one of the best shows there is on radio. Okay, you defend the Bahamian people. You look out for the Bahamian people. But yesterday was a very disappointing day for me yesterday. I don't know. You have been very diplomatic with your guests, and I know you probably kind of rough them up and stuff like that. But don't bring that guy back on your show no more, man. That guy, he's a Haitian. He got to be a Haitian, him and his brother. They got to be Haitians, man. Down in the Bahamian people for Haitians. Professor, don't bring him back on your show, man. He's not giving your show no credit. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for your contribution.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, those factors have to be taken into consideration. Yeah. We have another caller. Oh, another caller on the line. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good afternoon, Professor.
Yes, sir.
And good afternoon to your guests, and good afternoon, Bahamas.
Yes.
Professor, I listened to it yesterday, but man, I should ask what he was saying was Constitution, but I was so into it. I mean, you treat your guests right. You can't be rude to them. Let it be like that. What man, Sean, and whatever you name, the cat. Let everybody come in and let them have they say. But Professor, listen to me. I learned from Miles Monroe book. I can't say one. I don't want to advertise it, but I learned what ambassador is about. Man, that was so awesome. He said, listen, ambassador don't care about nobody else but their country. They ain't care about nobody else. Watch the U.S. ambassador. You missing harm one them tourists. All you going to see, he ain't care about how friendly he is with us. He ain't care how nice he is. He can put out that about us. He ain't care. He can say, but I don't want to say it because he don't care. He can put that out.
You put out an advisory.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
I even ashamed to even say it. He can do it, but listen here, Professor. What that gentleman said just now, all them ambassador need to go back to when we mess up on the job, but they send us back. Then they send us Bahamas Host. They need to go back to Tingham School, get our man. We got people here who teach. The man who teach about he teach what ambassador care. Ambassador don't care about no other country. He join the interest in the country who send him there. Now he love you, but he the most interest in the people who send him there like a husband. You ain't care about nobody else but your wife. You take care of your wife, take care of your family, and the rest you can help. That's what it's about.
Let me just ask this one question. Was this particular personality acting on behalf of the government of Bahamas, or was he doing his own thing?
I think he must be
got to be one or the other.
He's doing his own thing. Because listen, you know, man, Fred Mitchell, you see that, eh? Because I learned a little bit from him too. He don't play with the basketball, you know. He run couple off the same Bahamas. But listen, he doing his own thing. Listen here, me tell you, I learned this one out this man book. I can't remember the book. Because this just come up, but I got a book on my shelf. I got to go through them and check them. But listen here, ambassador don't care about no other country but their country, interest of their country. Now, they ain't like they ain't mean, they friendly with everything, but the interest of the ambassador is your country. And anything, all of these ambassadors play it. If I see something good happening over in other country I'm ambassador for, you know what I'd say? I might sneak over here and say, that's a good idea. We could run with that. This was ambassador about, but take your country. You ain't interested in no other body country. If you could help them on the side, ain't nothing wrong with that. But your interest, I can say that's why I go and kill the people's time. Everybody can know this. I can see I can find a book for tomorrow. I could put it on. Your interest is your country. I go on, Professor.
Yeah, okay, all right. The ambassador is responsible for carrying out the responsibilities of the government of that country that he represents. But the question has to be asked whether this particular person, one, was he acting in his own personal interests, or was he carrying out the responsibility of the government of the Bahamas while he was there, he said he was there for 3.5 years. That is the question we need to ask, because when you look at what's happening today, the government of the Bahamas is violating the Constitution. Was the government violating the Constitution when this particular Jeff Williams was there as the ambassador to Haiti? Was he given instructions? Were those instructions given directly by the government of the Bahamas to say, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing? Brother Cartwright, you want to comment on that?
Yes. It is sad that Mr. Williams did not speak with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and it's sad that they don't have a template pertaining to the Constitution so that our ambassadors know their role.
Yes.
Because the role of an ambassador is he represents the interests of the Bahamas.
Yes.
And so if you are sent to do a job on behalf of the Bahamas and you don't know your role, then it's a failure not only on you, but it's a failure on your boss. So means
that's correct.
The minister who gave you that post or the prime minister who gave you that post, it's a failure on him because he doesn't show that he knows or understands the Constitution of the Bahamas.
Yeah, because see, this has been a major problem for more than 50 years in our country. What we have had were political personalities,
correct,
achieving office. See, I question it because the thing is, individuals who've had the authority to run this country have been putting out other things on some other paper, and they say they're going to run by that. Fine. We have a constitution, a very strong document, that unfortunately those who were given the authority to run this place has not been putting it to good use on behalf of the Bahamian people. I know that to be a fact. I'd have to ask them that. I could prove that. So I'm saying in the case with Jeff Williams, either one, he was doing his own thing in Haiti without any interest in the Bahamian people, or he was getting specific instructions from the government of the Bahamas. This is the way we want you to behave. It had to be one or the other.
Yeah.
So if he was doing it from the government's point of view, then the government is wrong. And he's also wrong. Just like you have where Parliament may pass a law, right? It goes to the Senate. The Senate don't check nothing. They just rubber stamp it. Then it goes to the Governor General. The Governor General gets directions from the Prime Minister, right? The Prime Minister, the Governor General acts on the advice of the Prime Minister. That's what the Constitution says. So they wanted to send the thing with the Bahamas Nationality Act. And they went ahead and did it. But when you check the Constitution of the Commonwealth, you see something totally different what they missed. And they ain't bring the evidence yet. 51 years later, they have not brought the evidence of what the Constitution says ought to be there. That's how long they have been violating the law. The government of the Bahamas. Those who were given the authority to run this place. That's where the real cover is. And then you had this particular caller who called in early in the show. I don't know when the people can get this money. You're talking about going on to your estate. We want nothing on to no estate. We want to enjoy that today. When are we going to get it? Because the people have been waiting 51 years. And we've had 5 prime ministers, 5 of them. So when are we going to see some results?
Professor,
go ahead, Brother Carter.
What I've noticed in this country, and it's shameful. That's the best way I can put it.
Yes.
We have hundreds and hundreds of lawyers. But how many of those lawyers are constitutional lawyers? So I would suggest to whoever becomes the government, whether it's this government or any other government that will follow.
These particular personalities,
yes.
I'm not, I cut you there.
Okay.
These particular personalities who are governing now, we have to be honest and upfront with ourselves. Look at the facts, what they're doing now. That tells you a lot about them. We don't have to be guessing about anything. See, that's what has get me angry with us, because we close our eyes to what those we gave authority to govern this place. And they're not acting in accordance with the Constitution. That's as simple as that. And we need to be honest with ourselves. And no one ever told them, say, Mr. Government, you're wrong. Mr. MP, you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. I know I've said it. And not a living one of them could say where Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson has gone wrong. Not a living one. I go strictly by what the Constitution says. I don't give a heck who is in there and who is not there. That doesn't bother me. If the government commits, and listen, the government commits national sins, you know. These national sins are piling on top of us. You see all this stress and all this problem we are having today in this country? The stress level is extremely high. We have more problems on us now in 2024 than we had previously.
You know, Professor, it is sad because what I keep seeing in the governance of this country, this great country of ours,
yes,
it's a copy what they do. Well, he did this, so I don't see why I got to do this.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
There's always this back and forth.
Yeah, and then you find that the guy says, oh, he did this. I don't see why. And I always say to them, the Constitution, see, you know, there's a certain lawyer around here that defends migrants a lot, Mr. Fred Smith.
Yes.
And people always bash him, and I say, hold on now. The brother is never fighting a constitutional matter per se. What he does is look for the flaws, the loopholes.
Yes.
And he used those loopholes to defend his client. I said, you remember now, his last case he had at the Privy was the Jane Rooney case. And he lost.
Case. Yeah, he lost. Yeah.
He lost because the Privy showed us, and this is why I was getting upset, and I always tell to payments, use your phone to research things that matters. I don't want to worry about using my phone to see the DNC convention, the RNC convention. I want to know what matters to me, because when someone approach me, if I'm walking downtown and a foreigner approaches me and asks me some question about my country, I want to be able to hold my hand and answer it intelligently.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
You know, I had this conversation Friday at Gombe. I met some Americans, and they're like, wow, man, you guys got a lovely country. I said, yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. He said, man, you know, we've been feeling like you guys, like we said earlier, talking about democracy. And I said, excuse me, all due respect, we've been practicing democracy longer than you've been born.
That's right.
He said, no. I said, your nation.
That's right.
From 1729, we've been had democracy in the Bahamas.
That's right.
You guys came late. Oh, I didn't know that. I said, yes. I said, when you go up the road, those two pink buildings, Lord, those buildings are almost 200 to 300 years old.
That's right.
And he said, wow, I didn't. I said, yes. I said, what we have to do in the Bahamas is that whether our politicians understands it, but you need to teach your people the history. It's good to talk about Columbus. Columbus, in my book, was a tourist. Nice. Columbus was the first tourist in this region. We were the first country to get into tourism going back to 1492. He was lost.
Yes.
The natives here, he met people. It's saying that he come and met a bear country. He met people on these islands. So he was the first European tourist in this Western hemisphere. So we have to now learn from these things. Your history is good and bad.
That's correct.
Teach it.
Yes.
But you built on it. You teach your people their rights so they know. If you watch every other country around this region, don't care what happens, they could tell you what their right is. And you know, it's amazing. We've had more foreigners in the Bahamas understand their rights in the Bahamas better than Bahamians understand their own rights who live here.
And that's unfortunate.
And I always tell politicians,
that's very unfortunate.
You can't be afraid, because I always tell people this. If you're a parliamentarian, if you do things to better the lives of the people in your constituency, they will reward you by returning you back to Parliament because they see that you're doing the job that you basically came to them and fight. But if you don't do the job, then they send you home.
Yes.
And so the best way to make this nation better is to teach your people. Not everybody wants to be dependent on their government. All I want from my government is them to put policies in place that make my life better and make my neighbor life better.
Article 52.1 talks about what Parliament's supposed to be doing. 3 specific things should be in the law. Do we have that or we don't have it?
It's there, but we don't do it.
Okay, so it's there, but 3 specific things that it mentions. And I ask people who call into the show, do you see those things in your community? Do you see it in your constituency? Do you see it nationally? Because you have had, and this is another problem that we have in our country. You've had these particular personalities who were given this responsibility, who would perhaps get among themselves and they decide, okay, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, without any consultation with the constituents in that particular constituency. According to the Constitution, the representative is to do what? To represent the persons or people in that particular constituency. I haven't seen any parliamentary representation for the last 51 years. I don't see it. From the time we became an independent nation, where is the parliamentary representation? I know particular personalities have sat in Parliament. Were they performing the duties as a parliamentarian for the benefit of those people? The answer is no. All you do is look at the conditions in these constituencies and you'll see it for yourself.
Yeah.
So why are we closing our eyes to the harsh reality that the very same people you gave this authority to are the ones who jack you up? Why are we being stupid to close our eyes to that and say, well, that ain't so? Whether it's this particular party or that particular party? Because the parties are one entity and the government of Bahamas is another entity. We're going to be back after the break. I hear the music in the background, but I can't wait to come in after the break.
Yes.
This is Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson. The lines are open 813-0271, 326-0271, 326-0272. We'll be back after the break.
Express Yourself Live. We'll return right after this.
out, and so much more. And you never know who's going to drop by. It's the Quiet Storm, all getting underway tonight, 7 o'clock, right here on Global 99.5. I'm Buddy Greer for the Quiet Storm. Keep it moving.
From East Street to Blue Hill Road, it's your chance to join the discussion of today's issue. Let your voice be heard. Speak your mind and express yourself. Call in and participate at 326-0271 or 326-0272. WhatsApp us your concerns on 809-2310. Follow us live on Facebook and globalradio99.5fm.com. Express yourself.
This is Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. Express Yourself is on the air. And of course, this is the last part of the show, so you need to call in very, very quickly. 813-0271, 326-0271, 326-0272. Of course, you can hear us on cable 984, I think it is. 974. My producer told me the correct number. 974. And of course, we have Facebook, Global Facebook, and also Global YouTube. The thing is that, I hear the comments from the callers calling in, and you have a right to express your views. I don't have a problem with that. Even if you disagree with the way how the show went yesterday, I can understand that. But I allowed the particular guest to express his views. It does not necessarily mean that the host would automatically agree with everything that was said, because I don't. Because I know some of those things were not constitutionally sound. But it was not my interest to try to badger him or to belittle him or anything like that. And some people expect me to push back. They said that I should have done that. Okay, I accept that, and you feel that way. I'll look out for that, and I have quite a guest on the show. But I don't want to badger them. You don't want to try to embarrass them in any way. They invited, and they came, and he willingly came. So, and he was on time. He was early. And so we want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to express their views. So when you may hear from a guest, it doesn't necessarily mean that the host automatically agrees with everything. It's if you got the cart right here, and people are quite pleased with the way he has been acting, and he comes every Thursday. He's here on Thursdays, invited to come in, and he always brings something new to the table. There's one thing I can say about him, and he has brought a lot of enlightenment to issues of national importance in this country. So you hear it from a different perspective. And we're going to keep developing the show in that way, where you're going to be hearing from different people from time to time. Of course, Monday is my day. I ain't giving that up for nobody. So don't, ain't going to be no guest on Monday now. Yeah. Let me say that. We have a call on the line. Call you live on there. Go ahead, please.
Good day to your guest and good day, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir.
Good day, sir.
Okay, because I'm glad you brought it up about the show yesterday.
Yes.
Because I was kind of confused too.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I was like, I thought you switched on me. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, the callers are telling me point blank today that they felt I was a little too soft. I should have pushed back, but I'm trying to get them to understand that not because Mr. Williams said some things that the host would automatically agree with it.
But I think you should have educated him on the spot, because he, it's like almost felt like it was an agenda being pushed. He was saying things that we know, like common sense. Is like, what are you talking about?
Okay. And so this is why I said, when he had the position of ambassador for 3.5 years, I said either one, he was acting on his own without the authority of the government, or the government itself may have given him specific instructions, and if those specific instructions led him to do what he did, then the two of them are wrong, because they were acting unconstitutionally.
Because what I see happening right now with this real property tax thing, and persons now being assessed, put on this you owe this money, and if you don't owe this money, I guess whatever will happen.
Well, listen, caller, you got some people. You have some people who owe some huge money. And then the fella came on air and was talking big time. Say, just put that 30 million on the side. We can deal with that. But he's looking to the government of the Bahamas to give him permits to revamp his business and to do things in the Bahamas, whereas with the small fella, it's a different kettle of fish. How come be like that?
But I don't know why. Well, I see, that's what I say as a young man. So I have to ask the elders, how come, you can't, that's what I don't know. Because,
But you
know,
can't have two sets of laws. One for the little fella, and then the big man who owes plenty money. He still is allowed to have his license to operate in the country. And
Right.
then he's asking for further permits to do some other things to revamp his business. But the little fella can't get that.
But right there, that's an example, that's an exposure, because now that's an example of corruption. And when you talk about constitutional law, you're talking about, okay, what does the Constitution speaks to such action now that we now have evidence? You have evidence of infraction towards the Constitution when you talk about what happens to a small man in the pressure that they put us under voices now. These corporate companies who are paid off this money, but then they getting these relaxations on exemptions
That's
and
exactly
all these
what's
different
happening.
things.
Yes, sir. And so now the
see.
Bahamian people, listen now, caller, the Bahamian people, see, this is why I threw a challenge out to them on July 8th, If they think I can forget that, they have a next thought coming. Because it's going to prove how serious they are. Either you are or you're not, or you want to keep complaining for the next 51 years, and you have the authority in your hand to take appropriate action. You don't have to wait for no election. You can do it today. The Constitution is not
You ever
suspended.
scared of the dark?
Huh?
You ever scared of the dark?
I don't like darkness. Men
When I
love
was a
darkness
child-
rather than light because their deeds are evil.
When I was a child, I was afraid of the dark.
Oh, I see. I guess what you're saying.
I'm
Okay.
scary cat. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And so, no matter how close that door is to the bathroom, to my bed to get to the bathroom, if my mom leave that light on in the bathroom, I ain't going to that. I ain't putting my foot on the floor, and I ain't going to the bathroom. I call out my mommy, and she better come around the corner, keep that bathroom light,
Cut the
and I
light
just have to
on.
go cut that off.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay. So they might be afraid of the dark, and so we have to get them to now see that there's nothing to be afraid of in the dark.
But I think the Bahamian people have to realize, one, what the government is doing. The Bahamian people have the authority to correct the government of the Bahamas when they go
Agreed.
wrong.
Agreed.
That's what we have
but
to
they have to have
understand.
the strength. They have to know. They have to be able to recognize where they've gone wrong. So you talk about education. So there's so much systematic ills that we allow to surface and to stay dormant without correction as years go past. So
That's
it's compounded and it's now legacy. It's old. You're talking about old fixes, old pipes.
Okay.
Old wood.
Yeah. Hey, caller.
My guest wants to say something.
I'd
Go
like
ahead,
to ask you this. You said something there that it brings back my memory. What I've seen over my years in this country is that we were always brought up to have respect for elders.
Yes.
And what I notice is that the parliamentarians, I don't call them politicians, I call them parliamentarians because that's what they work in parliament.
Yes,
that's who they are. That's who they are.
Yeah.
I watched whereby that the playbook that they've been using is that when we got self-governance, we always were a society where we trust. So my grandfather or my great-grandfather might have known, let's say, Sir Roland, and Sir Roland treated him well and whatever.
Yeah.
So he trusted Sir Roland was going to do what is right for the country.
Yeah.
We went through that same situation with our grandparents with Sir Lyndon.
Yes.
We went through that with our parents with Mr. Ingram.
That's right.
And so what we've not done was basically question.
You're right.
Is what you're doing really beneficial to us?
Right.
And so we basically said, oh, what? We elect you. You now got the government. Just go do what you got to do.
Right.
Cool. And as we see that they themselves been making missteps.
Exactly.
And those of us who have the copy of the Independence Order, which is the Constitution, were too afraid to say, question them, because you say, you know what? If I question him, I can embarrass
He's
him.
a minority.
Yes. We can embarrass him.
You
And
see,
so
you know what happened to people and families who gone against the grain.
And so what we've now realizing now, and I always say to the professor that the generation who's come behind me and behind those who behind me, they no longer are accepting this
Right.
You know who I am? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
They say, I don't care who you are. You hate me, and if you don't stop, I'm going to hate you.
Yeah.
And so now we have this group of persons sitting in our parliament, do not know how to relate, how to respond,
Yes.
and how to show they are different than their predecessors, because
Yeah.
all of them are still
Very good.
using the same old playbook.
Yes.
And so when
Very good.
people question it, they feel that you're trying to slide their intelligence
Very good.
or slide their power.
Yeah.
No, all people are asking you now is give
Do
us
better.
good governance, do better.
That's
And
it.
if you do better, you know what your reward will be, because you
Yes.
got to come back to the people and we will reward you with another term.
Handsomely.
Yeah. And so I always tell parliamentarians, I say, listen, man, you have a job to the people.
Yes. You get paid to do it. Ain't like
Yeah.
a free volunteer.
Your
You being paid.
party is different than your job to the people, because
Yeah.
Right.
if you mind your party,
Very good.
you got that some of the leaders of these parties, they get reelected, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they ain't got to worry about nothing. They get elected. You'll hear some of these leaders been sitting in parliament 10, 15, their pension already enshrined and etched in stone.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they
So they don't
covered.
care.
So
You
when
see,
they
the
move off the
legacy they
scene,
giving off.
yes.
They
So when
straight.
they move off the scene, they straight.
Mhm.
Now you who just calling for the first time, if you want to follow them, and then when you look, you on the outside looking in, you tell me
Exactly.
how come he get elected?
You mess up your opportunity.
You messed up your opportunity.
That's right.
And this is where behemoths are now questioning. And I
Yeah.
always tell politicians or parliamentarians, don't be combative. Behemoths are not a combative set of people, you know. All
No.
they want from you
No.
is to be truthful and
Right.
be honest and
Just do your job.
do your job.
Do your job.
Right.
Just
And if
do
you do
your
your job, they ain't worrying about nothing, because they say, man,
Yeah.
yes, he's doing the job. And they can't
Yeah.
wait to get him reelected. But a lot of them don't know the difference between separating that uniform called political colors and representation for the masses.
Yeah.
Because I always tell people, I've got family members who sat in parliament, I've got them now. And I always say to them, one thing I say to them, I say, listen, you're all on both sides of the divide. So, and I probably might have one in the third party that's coming up. I don't know. But I say to them, the one thing I want you to do, when you become the representative of the constituency, you've been given a mandate by the masses in that constituency. So it means that your job is no longer a party thing. It is a job for all who lives there. So yes, not everyone is going to vote for you. Not
But
everybody's
that
going
don't
to vote.
mean.
But
But
you
that
got
don't mean I must not take care of everybody. See, I the parliamentarian. I take on the
That's-
position to
yes.
serve everybody, brother.
you know, and like I was listening to the show yesterday with the ambassador, and it keep while listening to it and now listening to people call in, one thing came across my mind, and I was like, you know that every ambassador, when you look at the United States, for them to get that post, their Congress or their another form of their governing branch question that person who wants that post that is being presented to them by the president or by their leader. And he goes before the Senate and he goes before the Congress. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice that when somebody we appoints to be an ambassador has that opportunity whereby that we can now question the people through our Senate and our Congress, and then they vote instead of just appointing.
But that's there, you know, brother. Understand circumventing the law. If
Yes.
you read the Constitution
Yes.
as process of law, that's due process, that's understanding, doing above board, you're doing it right.
Yeah, and so when I look at our Constitution, I was like, man, we've got so many things that can make this country better if we just follow
But
it.
it starts with the helm. It starts with the ship, who running the ship, so the leader.
And that is
Mhm.
why
Okay.
people don't understand, because like I said to Professor earlier, there was this, I was on the YouTube channel, this African professor, and he called off all the great African leaders, Mandela, Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, and he said this, and I said, I will always quote this. He said that in Africa, we've had leaders who became politicians. He said today we have politicians who are trying to become leaders.
Yes.
And he said that's where we're going wrong, and that is why
we slip it, you see.
And so I said, you know something? That is where we now find ourselves in the Bahamas. We've been having politicians who wants to be leaders and not leaders who wants to become politicians.
Exactly.
And that is why we have the state of a.
Because you know they tell us, they tell young leaders like myself, when they see the little spark in our eye, and we come and give them the big question of why things so hard for us.
Yeah.
They say, man, ain't gonna never change. You better go out now, so go to the Bahamas, do one thing to get better. I say, hey, let's change it, but let's make it better from home because there's no running, by.
Yes, because you know why? They discourage, see, because they've, it's so funny, and I always say this, in all vernacular work and everything in the Bahamas. You go on a job and you have a manager who's been on the job, got tenure on you.
Right.
And he watch you apply yourself, he teach you, and he see that, boy, this guy is coming. And one day you'll see that he gives you this cold shoulder and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And you will ask others, and the rest of the crew will say, listen, the reason why the boss is giving you such a hard time, the boss feels threatened by you. And I always try to tell him, no, if you basically train me the proper way and I excel, who you think I'm going to give the credit to? Not myself, to you.
Right.
And they don't see it that way because they always believe that you have to move off the scene. You are not going to be there forever. And if you basically teach me and train me right, whatever mistakes you have made when you was in that chair, when I get into the chair, I will not make those same mistakes you make. Because why? Because you've already shown me, don't make these mistakes I made. Do better.
Well, I appreciate this wisdom.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, General.
Thank you for your call.
Thanks a lot, caller.
Yes, my love, yours, brother.
Yes.
Yeah, that is very, very important. And I think the electorate or the electors, according to the Constitution, have to make better decisions in terms of persons who are going to run our national affairs. Now, how do we do that? How do you get people in a given community? And I have to go in depth into this, and I'm going to pull out articles of the Constitution and expound on them to assist the Bahamian people to make better. Article 52.1 is going to be one of the top ones right there, which speak directly to the parliamentarians. The point is, we have been making decisions which are not in our best interests. And some of us know better, but we have refused to do better. Now that's in a serious predicament we're in, okay? Others, again, do not know, haven't been taught, and they make decisions based on what someone else told them. They didn't check out anything to see is it so or not.
Yeah, no fact check.
No fact check at all, period. So what has to happen is persons who live in these constituencies, see, even as Obama himself said when he spoke and some others who spoke at the convention, get on the phone, talk to the people, communicate with them. And I think we need to do a lot of this in our communities because we don't really know one another as we ought to. We have a call on the line. Call you live on air. Go ahead, please.
What I said.
Yeah, what you say? Hey, what happened to you, man? You so late.
Yeah, well,
you went to sleep, eh?
Sometimes those things has happened.
You had a long night.
You had a beautiful show yesterday.
You say you had a beautiful show yesterday?
Yeah.
Let me hear about it.
Now, I agree with Mr. Williams.
Okay.
The Haitian, I ain't talking about the Bahamian Nation or whoever. They do not have the Bahamian job.
Okay.
Because when you look at it and you see that the Haitian do the gardener work and stuff like that, they ain't working in no ministry office and stuff like that. So I could agree with him to a point. You understand me?
Go ahead, caller.
So now, what I really call you for, I hear Dr. Minnis say he's supporting Pentad on the bank when say Pentad get in, he was trying to straighten up the banking. Man, should put his head in shame. He being the former prime minister. How under his watch, why he allow this to go on so far? You know how foolish that sound? You understand me?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
It looks so bad. But he only saying that now because I learned that they having a meeting not to nominate him for Kalani.
Okay.
So now he feel now like, well, boy, let me go behind Pentad and say something. Fred Mitchell say something. Why he say he agree with the two MPs what say something. You see? But I know time is running up now, and I ain't gonna hold up too much of time, but I can maybe chat with you tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's open line.
Yeah, God permit.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Well, thank you, caller, for your contribution, Brother Cartwright.
Yes. I would say this to the caller. I agree with him, and also I disagree with him.
Yeah.
Because at least he is admitting that, yes, I was derelict in my duty, because I agree with the caller. You sat in that chair and you did nothing. So you have no legal room there. But now to come back and say, yes, I agree with him in dealing with the banks, at least you're humble enough to know you messed up. Now, the other part might not nominate him, and I always tell people this. What is there more for Dr. Minnis to achieve in the Bahamas? Nothing. You've already got the highest post that can be given to a parliamentarian, which is prime minister. You are one of 5. So if they don't nominate you, you should not be kicking up your heel and making noise. So you should no, ride into the sunset and relax, enjoy your wealth. But in the situation, many mentions that the ambassador, caller, every job in this country belongs to Bahamians. I don't know how you see it, but this is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And any Bahamian who wants a job, every job should be to his or her calling.
That's correct.
So don't say that the ambassador is right. No, the ambassador is wrong. Because what you're saying to people who are non-Bahamians, you could come to the Bahamas and get work. You could come to the Bahamas and do this. No, because here's the thing. You are coming into another man's country and you are basically disenfranchising someone. Not all, someone. Some people might not want that job, but others will take that job.
Will take it, yeah.
So all jobs in this country called the Bahamas belongs to Bahamians. And so, Professor, like I said, I hope Mr. Williams might learn something and go back and stuff. But the road he took yesterday, it doesn't look good on his behalf, and it doesn't look good on the behalf of the government that hired him.
Yes.
So all of these things, and so for political parties, and this is why I would throw it to them, as a country grows, you have to grow with the country.
That's right.
So what you've done in the past cannot wait today and will not wait for the future. So you have to have a continuance. Use your brightest minds to make the country better.
Well, I hope we have that as we move forward, because the Bahamian people have to make some very serious choices. We have to go in depth into how to choose the right person to represent in a given constituency. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson. We thank those people who called in. We had a very lively discussion today. Thank you for participating. And I appreciate those who had some feelings about what happened yesterday. I'm going to look at that very seriously. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. Have a very pleasant afternoon.
of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
This